High in the Swiss Alps is the birthplace of winter sliding sports. On the road between the town of St. Moritz and the village of Senorina, more than a century ago, winter enthusiasts started sliding, and it is still here in St. Moritz. The bobsleigh and skeleton sliding have their heart. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven. Welcome to the beautiful Engadine Valley for the teams competition in the 2013 Bauhaus FIBT World Championships. Well, this is a unique combination of all disciplines of the sliding sports. Men and women's skeleton and men and women's bobsleigh will make up national teams. In the first heat, they go into a random draw. The first discipline will be men's skeleton, followed by the women's bob, women's skeleton, and rounded out by the two-man. And as ever, it's cumulative time that decides our winners. Well, sitting alongside me is Olympic silver medalist in women's bobsleigh, Helen Upperton. And Helen, whatever the discipline, the challenges of this unique St. Moritz track remain the same.
It is. It's very unique. It's built by hand. It's the only natural track left on the planet Earth. And it is a spectacular venue for these athletes. We're heading down here into these very small kink curves, causing a lot of problems in the bobsleigh discipline, not so much in skeleton. Carrying velocity through these long straightaways is very crucial to maintaining speed through the bottom portion of the track. Heading straight down this straightaway, keeping it off the walls and into wall curve. It's a multiple oscillation corner, big left-handed turn, going into the snake combination. The transition is very important. You want a nice parallel transition into sunny curve, a nice big right-handed corner, one of the few corners with a support structure behind the snowbank, into Nash Dixon, named after two very famous British bobsleighers, won the gold medal in the '64 Olympics in Innsbruck. Through Horseshoe, one of the most famous corners on this track, Telephone and Shamrock. Devil's Dyke is a big left-handed corner, multiple pressures. Small Nameless, setting up multiple right-handed combination corners where you're picking up a ton of velocity. The bobsleds on this venue have been reaching speeds of over 145 kilometers an hour down this straightaway into Martineau. Big left-handed pressure, second biggest G-force corner in the track, into Portago and across the finish line.
And you can see the skeleton slider's head being pushed right back down by 2.5 Gs in those final corners. Track record for the skeleton set by Lukas Kummer in the Swiss Championships just around the New Year week. And we will see the track records established every single year, because this track, as Helen alluded to, is hand-created every season. Well, there are some of Australia's skeleton sliders. Unfortunately, there is no Aussie team among our start list of 13 teams from more than half a dozen different nations. We've got plenty of variety, and one of the great things about this team competition is that it is so much fun for the disciplines to mingle with their teammates. Great Britain in the random draw got 1 and 2 on the track. Canada, the USA followed them. We got teams too from Switzerland, from Austria for the first time in a team competition. We got two brothers sliding together. Two German teams. Germany have won the teams competition in every World Championships it's been run, except for last time in Lake Placid, where the USA won for the first time. And we also have for the first time a team from Romania. So from the Goliaths to the Davids of the sliding world. And the combination of bob men and women and skeleton men and women means that we don't see necessarily a set pattern. Some teams will have stronger and weaker links, and that's the intrigue here.
Yeah, it's a very exciting event to watch, because the performance and results are jumping drastically from one discipline to the other. We see the biggest split time differences in the skeleton event versus bobsleigh, where the times typically are a lot closer together.
Well, you'll see some teams have got a great, let's say, two-man bobsledder, and maybe the slowest of the women's skeleton or men's skeleton. So we, until the very last run, are not going to know who's likely to claim the medals here. Well, to get things underway, we have the first of our British teams. Kristen Bromley, Dr. Ice, in his 17th year of sliding as a British athlete, is the man who starts off their lead-out leg. His brother Richard, who designs and builds these Bromley sleds with him, is holding it there on the ice. And of course, unlike the bobsled, bent over, almost double fingertips, inches from the ice as they sprint off the blocks. But Helen Upperton, like in bobsled, so much of your speed comes before the first corner from this explosive start.
Yeah, it's very important, the push on this track. You can see this athlete, Christian, dragging his toe to come around that first kink. Skeleton has a bit of an easier time keeping their sled straight through these straightaways. They're very low center of gravity, nice and close to the ice. But like you said, the push times are extremely important.
A 5:03 getaway, 55.8 kilometers an hour. We're making a notable these little split times. He comes down into Sunny corner, then through Nash and Dixon. Why are two British Olympic gold medalists celebrated here? Well, because they're the only members of the St. Moritz Bob Club ever to have won Olympic gold. Medium low line there through Horseshoe, nicely through Telephone. You can hear scraping and scratching noises. Sometimes that's the athlete's toes, sometimes it's the chin piece of the helmet at nearly 3 Gs in these corners.
And the skeleton athletes in this competition are just starting out on the track. They're racing next weekend with the 4-man bobsleigh, so they're getting a bit of an early start on training. Christian Bromley, 137.1 kilometers an hour, is a very experienced pilot, skeleton slider. He's been doing it, like you said, 17 years. New track record for the skeleton discipline.
Yep, absolutely beats the time set by Lucas Kummer in the Swiss Championships at the end of December last year. So a 1:08.60 is a brand new track record. And speed down the bottom, 137.85 miles an hour. When you're out at sledging in the snow at home with your head out front, think of that.
This is such a great shot of this very famous horseshoe corner. You can see him dragging his left toe to bring the sled down. A nice entry into Telephone. It's all about the aerodynamic position that they lay on these sleds.
Well, there is Dr. Ice. He goes into the leader's box. Next up, the second of our Great Britain teams, and this is Dom Parsons, rookie in the World Cup, one of the youngest of the British skeleton sliders in their elite team, and a long, rangy athlete who's got lots of speed at the start. And there you go, 4.86. That is the fastest start that's been seen on this track this season.
He's going to have a lot more velocity heading into the wall curve, carrying much more speed because of that spectacular push time.
56.9 to 55.8 kilometers an hour, so a full click up. And he should translate that into more speed coming down to Horseshoe as well.
Bit of a late entry into Sunny, taking a bit of a pressure line as he headed out of the Snake 2 corner.
Well, they've only had 2 trips down in training. A couple of days ago, I was talking to the athletes in training, and they were saying it is so skiddy on this track. 102 kilometers an hour there.
This track here in St. Moritz is warming up over the course of the day. We've had the 2-man competition this morning. A lot of sleds have been down this track. You can see the runner marks on the ice that create a slipperier surface, speeding the track up, creating less stability in the straightaways.
Well, on any other track, that would be slowing the track down, but as you say here, it just polishes off the frost and the track gets glassy fast, and it's another track record, 1:08.28. There's Ed Smith, one of his teammates, the third of the British male sliders who'll be competing in the Skeleton World Championships next week here on this fabulous ice track. Well, one of the reasons that the track speeds up we'll talk about in a moment, but look at this explosive start.
This one-armed push has been developed kind of in the last decade for skeleton, giving them more ability to sprint properly behind the sled. It's a very awkward running position that these skeleton athletes have to push their sled. Small tap coming from Martineau into Portago, but a great downtime, new track record.
See, when a bobsledder says a tap, it's the sled that taps the wall. When you tap the wall with a skeleton and you're doing 85, that's your shoulder, that is. Next up is our Olympic champion, John Montgomery. Took the whole of last season off, and he's been joined here this week by his wife, Darla, the Canadian slider, Darla Montgomery. 4.90 start. He's just starting to get a feel back for this new sled he's developed. This is the Mark IV Montgomery sled. He's been struggling to try and make it work the way he wants this year.
Yeah, the equipment and technology in the sliding sports is a very important part about the potential result that you can have. There's three parts of the sliding driving disciplines. You have to have a fast push, a great drive, and very good equipment. It's like race car driving on ice.
Well, he had a big moment in Horseshoe in training, and he's got that nailed properly. He almost fell off Horseshoe in one of the training runs. I was talking to a couple of the junior women skeleton sliders yesterday. They were watching him and they were going, oh my goodness, if the Olympic champion's dropping off Horseshoe, what chance have we got?
He had a little bit of a deficit at the start. He's been having a nice smooth run, a small tap coming through tree to bridge curve, but he's been picking up time. He's 900ths behind.
1:35.6 is not enough perhaps to close the gap down, and he drifts away to 2/10, and that tap down the bottom is what robbed him of the speed, because again, you're not just bumping a little bit of carbon fiber, you're dragging your sleeve along there, and you know what that's like when you're sliding. If you drag yourself along the ice, it grabs back.
Yeah, he had a great middle portion of the track and a few small mistakes in the bottom, brushing a couple of the walls. You can see here he comes out of this corner a little too early, tapping the left wall, going into leap.
This is the uphill section. The little woodwork there, that's the bridge over the Cresta run, the famous Cresta skeleton run, from which this sport is developed. 28 and 48, the Cresta run was the only Olympic skeleton sports venue until 2002 in Salt Lake. Well, next up is John Daly of the USA. He's been such a big starter up until this season, has just not seemed to find the speed this year. Can he get something here? 5 flat. Well, that's more akin to what he would like to be starting at.
The other thing that's really interesting is they can actually choose which of the grooves to push their sled from. They can choose the left groove or the right groove, and it depends on actually which arm they feel more comfortable swinging versus having on the sled.
1400ths of a second behind our leader, Don Parsons of the GB2 team at the moment. Great Britain, Canada, Great Britain are the 3. And you can see there Coach Martin Rettel of the Austrian team videoing the lines here. One of the things you notice about John Daly is how much upright he slides. His head and shoulders are quite upright, and the idea is to mold yourself like jelly over the sled to get out of the wind.
Yeah, these sports are all about aerodynamics. His shoulders are quite far off the sled. I expect to see these athletes get a little bit more comfortable as they go through their training week, heading into their World Championship competition that's coming up this weekend. 137.1 kilometers per hour at the bottom.
Good speed and a big skid across the line, but that's not too bad. A 108.61 slide from John Daly. And of course, this is only their 3rd time down the track. If you get a race car driver to try and perform after just 2 laps of practice, they'll look at you and laugh, especially if they know they've only got a single lap to nail a good time, but that's what happens in this sport.
You can see he's got a bit of a late entry. He's heading close to that left wall, heading into Horseshoe, but a nice high line in Horseshoe, which is what we want to see in this corner.
And look at him as he takes it out. You've got to avoid the walls on both sides. A little early in means a little late off. Zach Lambert, former US slider who's coaching the team. And next up is the second of our US teams, Matt Antoine. Remind you, this is a random draw. This is just the way they came out of the hat. So Matt Antoine, the lead-off man for USA 2, had knee surgery during the summer. An injury that had been plaguing him for a couple of years. Bit the bullet, had it fixed. And so his lightning speed at the start is slightly blunted this year, and a big skid into corner 1, but he gets a nice exit.
5.06 is the slowest push time we've seen. He's going to really want to work on this top section of the track to try to gain some time and some velocity.
Well, now, fit as he likely will be next year at this time, heading into the Olympic Games, he should be not a 5.06, but a 4.86 slider. He's been a very, very quick starter.
Nice line coming out of Sunny, heading a little bit late into Nash Curve, very close to that left wall in Dixon.
Really tall athlete, 6'4". You can see those long levers waving about just to shift the balance on the sled to affect subtle steers. 100.6 kilometers an hour. He's been doing too much steering. It looks neat and tidy, but if you steer too much to get that, then you scrub speed off in the ice.
You can really hear that as the toes are dragging across the ice to try to control the direction of the sled.
Well, the other thing you'll hear is the chin piece sliding, particularly former world champion Anja Huber and Katie Uhlaender of the USA. Always you hear their chin chattering on the ice. And when you're lying on the sled, it's only 2 inches off the ice to start with. So you get 3 times your own body weight pushing you down, pushing your head down. Yeah, it's not hard to imagine how you make that contact.
Yes, from a bobsledder's perspective, we always wonder what it's like to have your face this close to the ice while you're traveling over 135 kilometers an hour. You can see him twisting his body, heading into horseshoe to try have a better entry line, dragging his right toe across the ice.
That's just to try and keep the height up there so he can dive off on the exit. Matt Antoine of the USA then, lying in 5th place. Next up are the Swiss team. They've just taken a silver medal in the two-man bobsleigh competition this afternoon, so lots of good feelings around the Swiss team. This is Lukas Kummer, their national skeleton champion from Laufen, which is his hometown, also a white goods manufacturer, a ceramics manufacturer of note. 4.91 start. That's a very good start from Lukas Kummer.
These Swiss athletes just overwhelmed and excited to have a home World Championship event. It's a very, very great time to be an athlete when your venue is hosting an event of this magnitude.
Well, let's catch up with our man John Morgan. He's down in the finish area. Who's he caught up with?
Together.
Good luck. Still spent a lot of time in a leader's box.
Yeah, it's fun, eh? Get to see it all.
That was the voice of Don Parsons, our leader in the GB2 team, as we watch Lukas Kummer, 99.8 kilometers an hour. Top speed there is 103. He's not having a great run here.
He had a big hit out of horseshoe, heading into telephone corner. The first athlete we've seen to take a hit on the wall in that position down the track.
Well, the only man who's actually slid here before a couple of days ago, because the Swiss Championships were the week between Christmas and New Year. There is Don Parsons still in the leader's box, and the Swiss come up 36 hundredths of a second short. But Helen Upton, as you said, we're going to see much greater variety in the skeleton legs than we will in the bobsleigh legs. So let's hope that they can get themselves competitive with their bob athletes as well.
You can see this nice line through horseshoe, left toe on the ice, switching to the right toe. He's gonna skid, hit the back end of his sled and his legs on the short wall as he heads into telephone. He's too high, too late at the exit of horseshoe. You actually don't typically see mistakes like this from a home track athlete.
Well, there you go. Sponsor and hometown all in one. Next up is Eric Nielsen of Canada, with the traditional bagpipes music being played for him. He's the lead-off man for the first of 2 Canadian teams. I beg your pardon, no, of 1 Canadian. Oh, no, it is 2 Canadian teams. We've already seen the other one, haven't we? With John Montgomery. This is Canada 1.
Controlling the sled through that first kink. 495 push time is very competitive start time with a 56.4 kilometer velocity. Brushing the left wall down the kink. He's the first athlete to veer into that left wall. These straightaways are so difficult to control, especially over the course of the day while the track speeds up and loses some of its traction.
One thing that we'll see across the course of the day is sun and shadow moving position around this track in this wooded mountainside, and that means that various different parts of the track will be shiny or sticky, depending on how you hit them. You can actually steer the sled for you, just as hitting a patch of water does in your road car.
A bit of a low line through horseshoe, a lot of pressure coming off the exit of that corner. It's one of the main spots where you pick up velocity for the bottom of the track.
Raceman's chin getting bounced off the ice there. He's a long-rangey athlete again. Like Don Parsons, like Matt Antoine, 136.7, that's about the 3rd fastest we've seen down at the bottom, and he comes across the line in 3rd spot. And there is your race leader still. That's a decent slide, 108.55 from Eric Nielsen. Rookie year on the World Cup trail last season, so the sophomore in the Canadian team enjoying himself. Again, the line in horseshoe, you'll see the bobsledders right up towards the woodwork. You don't want to carry quite so much high in the skeleton.
You can see the pressure holding him on that right wall. He's a little bit diagonal into telephone.
There he is. 3rd place for Canada, 2nd place for Canada. And next up is the Austrian team. Raphael Meyer, his brother Benny, is racing as well in the bobsled, and his dad is the Austrian bobsled coach.
Family of sliders.
Yeah, and a young family of sliders. Raphael 19, his brother Benny is 18. And they do have a sister at home. She doesn't want to slide, apparently.
Raphael taking a little bit of a skid all the way through that first kink, trying to regain control of the sled with his left toe on the ice. Nice line, good recovery as he heads into the snake transition.
Well, one of the things he'll need to be looking at in the next year or two is getting some speed at the start. 5.2, the fast start of the leader, Don Parsons, 4.8. 4/10 of a second, Helen, should be 1.2 seconds adrift at the bottom of this track.
Yeah, we typically say every 10th at the top is tripling on the way down the track, and the longer the track, the more time you have to accumulate velocity and speed.
And he's already 1.2 seconds back. Now he's holding that loss of speed, but he didn't have great momentum, 102 kilometers an hour. If he can get up over 136 here, 137.7. Now that is a very good speed at the bottom of the track. That is the fastest we've seen by over half a kilometre an hour, and that rescues a little bit of the deficit from the top of the track. Well, he started 4/10 back and finished 1.1 seconds back, so he actually drove the high-speed parts very well indeed.
Yeah, nice smooth lines in the bottom portion of the track. You can see here the exit of Sunny heading into Nash. He's nice and parallel. His chin guard inches off the ice as he heads through Dixon, brushing the left wall a little bit too diagonal. You can see their feet adjusting as they go through that line in that transition.
It is a constant battle against the pressure, shimmy and jiggling on your sled. Next up, Germany's veteran Frank Rommel, fully 27 years old now. But so many young sliders in the German A-card are around him that he almost, he says, sometimes feels like their granddad. He doesn't perform like their granddad. He doesn't have the fastest start, but this guy has got great feel for the ice. 4.99, and for Frank, that is a very competitive getaway.
Yeah, nice to be under the 5-second mark in the push.
Good momentum as well, 56.2 kilometers an hour. He really carried speed. He's a great classicist, and you'll see this from the very best skeleton sliders. And Gregor Staley, the Swiss legend, is an archetype. Heels together, long, fish-like body shape that just cheats the air and allows it to follow you through.
Yeah, his position on the sled, the way he rides on his skeleton sled is so streamlined, so aerodynamic. Both shoulders completely down, chin guard inches off the ice.
And look at the speed, not 102, not 103. I give you 104.5 kilometers an hour. He's got the lead. What Frank Rommel needs more than anything else is meters and meters of ice in which to use his genius. 139.7, 2.5 kilometers an hour up on the fastest slide we've had so far. It is the lead for the Germans and a new track record, 107.76. Tom Parsons with 4 World Cup weekends under his belt has to give best to a man with more than that in seasons of World Cup competition. Great slide for a track record.
As we mentioned, a huge margin separating the times between skeleton sliders. 106.76 for our leader, 108.28 was the second fastest time. Such a great velocity out of Horseshoe. Nice smooth line. Look at how close his feet are. His body so tight to the sled. Great aerodynamic riding positioning.
Fantastic stuff from Frank Rommel, who used this venue to propose to his girlfriend Yulia a couple of seasons ago. Next up, the team from Russia, and they are resting all their frontline competitors. Anton Bachuev then will lead out this Russian team. See the sunshine at the top of the track, the umbrellas are covering the sleds. When he popped out of the groove and then luckily back into it at the start, that was not a stroke of genius, that was great good fortune.
We see this every once in a while with skeleton. They don't have the same weight as a bobsleigh with all of that bobsleigh, so 170 kilos a two-man. So they typically pop out of the grooves if the grooves aren't cut deep enough with the lighter weighted sleds.
Well, let's catch up with our race leader. John Morgan is with Frank Rommel.
Frank, great preparation for your event coming up. You were flying.
Yeah, I tried to, and it was a good run, I think.
Well, it was the speed, almost 140 kilometers in the finish.
Yeah, so my goal for the race, for the single race, is then to be over 140.
Way to set up your German teammates. Congratulations.
Thank you.
A great anchor leg or lead-off leg from Frank Rommel. Anton Bachuev currently in 9th spot, so just ahead of Austria's Benny Meyer, Raphael Meyer, I beg your pardon. I'm getting the two confused because I was watching Benny earlier. 1:36.9, not bad speed from Bachuev down at the bottom of the track. Little wild as he comes off Portago. Frank Rommel stays in the lead. There's the great Willi Schneider, a man who Helen will recognise from his time coaching in the Canadian setup. Well, 109.13 leaves the Russians in 8th of our 10 teams so far, so ahead of the USA 1 squad as well.
Taking a tap as he comes through this uphill section of the corner. You can see these lines already produced from the sleds that have come down the track already. They take typically a high line as they cross the finish line out of Portago.
We had 56 bobsleigh trips down the track already to polish the ice to mirror perfection. And now, as we get into our 11th male skeleton slider in this team's competition, it's the turn of the second Swiss team. And this is Michael Herfer, who will also be competing in the men's singles competition next week. Well, see, he took a steer early, didn't he, to avoid the little bump up to the wall in corner one entirely, and as a result, that bit of local knowledge gets him a good run down to the second kink.
Wavering slightly down this straightaway out of kink 2, heading into wall curve.
You see the grooves of the bobsleighs are actually helping the skeleton. If you drop into a straight set, it'll stop your slide.
Yeah, it holds you in position a little bit. We actually saw that with the two-man sleds coming down on the 4th and final heat of their competition this morning.
Of course, if you get into one where somebody's meandered all over the track, then you're in trouble. Up at horseshoe,
nice
right up to the woodwork, yeah.
You can see him dragging his toe to try to avoid that left wall into telephone curve.
101.7, Frank Rommel, the leader, was 104.4 kilometers an hour here that nobody else has seen.
Swiss team being a home field advantage, athletes.
Oh, huge skid there as he goes under the railway line that you can hear the train running over the top.
Big bump as he heads uphill into Portago as well.
Oh, and cannons into the wall. And when you hit the wall on a skeleton sled, the wall hits back. Thank you very much for that, Isaac Newton, the third law of motion. For each action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. You hit it at 140 clicks, it hits you back with the same speed. And that's why you see these athletes black and blue under their speed suits.
This is the shot of horseshoe here. You can see how close he is to the roof, the dust spraying off the ice at the top of the track. This is where he lost a little bit of control coming out of Gunther Sachs' corner, heading down the straightaway into Martineau. His feet are twisted to the right-hand side of his sled as he tries to regain a straight line as he heads uphill.
Well, the simple way to stop that fishtailing is just to spread your feet wide, and that puts the knives down and straightens you up, but it does slow you down as well. Next up, Germany 2's Alexander Krökel, junior world champion last season. And he made his World Cup debut for Germany. Now you see he took a little later steer into the corner, ran up the bump in corner one, but no dramas with doing it that way either.
496 push time. Skeleton and bobsleigh, there's some similarities and some differences. The same bob spikes, skeleton spikes are used to push the sleds over the 50-meter time. One of the differences in skeleton and bobsleigh actually is the material of the suits. Bobsleigh outfits are actually significantly thinner lycra than skeleton because the skeleton body is the aerodynamic shell that they're competing as they go down the track.
Well, in luge, which is the third of the winter sliding disciplines, their suits are almost neoprene. They're certainly the boots are that they wear as they go feet first. 102.8, that's a decent speed as well. Only 3 or 4 have beaten the 102 margin. 3/10 back. He was 5th at the start. He's driven his way into 4th position.
These are nice parallel lines through this bottom part of the track.
He's ahead of Canada 2 at the moment, behind Germany, GB and Canada, and in fact he's 3rd. So Frank Rommel leads for Germany 1, Don Parsons 2nd for GB 2, and Germany 2 in 3rd place. Well, one more male skeleton slider to go before we reset the field with our women's bobsleds.
You can see this athlete powering through the start, ice spraying up in this aerodynamic, aggressive position, the right arm swinging to give him some more momentum as he loads onto the sled.
Well, there is the order with 12 of our 13 sleds down, 2 German teams in the top 3. Wait and see whether they will claim another Teams World Championship. And really good to see an entire Romanian outfit, men and women's skeleton sliders, men and women's bobsleigh, taking part in this team competition. Tiny team, tiny amount of budget, and again out of the spur, but getting back into that second groove did not quite rescue the start for Dorin Velicu of Romania.
Losing a little bit of the stability, the sled popping out of the grooves. As he loaded onto the sled, he was trying to regain control, and you said one of the best ways to do that is to split the legs, put both feet on the ground. You lose so much velocity when you do that.
It's amazing having slid in the Cresta run. When you get that yawing going, just passing your feet, it stops it dead because he gets both knives at the back of the sled into the ice. Same thing here. And actually, you look at John Montgomery, look at Kristen Bromley, they slide like Katie Uhlaender with heels apart a lot of the time because they prefer the stability that brings against the tiny deficit of aerodynamics.
Yeah, the aerodynamics are important, but going straight down these tracks is even more important. He has a big deficit to try to catch up from those mistakes in the top part of the track where he came out of the grooves. High line and Gunther Sachs.
Well, listen, the Romanians aren't kidding anybody. They don't think they're going to be in amongst the medals, but they certainly aren't going to get any better if they don't compete. A 110.60 slide for Dorin Velicu. That leaves the Romanians in 13th spot, and that means that when we start the women's bobsled, perhaps as they might have anticipated, the Romanian girls will be first up, and I'm sure that they were thinking that was likely to be the case. Again, sprinters out there watching this, or any kind of track and field runners, how difficult does that look, just running with your fingertips inches off the ice, never mind trying to push the sled as well?
It's definitely something that takes a lot of practice. You can see the ice, although it looks smooth on TV, it's very pebbled, especially because this track is built out of snow, so that it's not a smooth surface for them to be able to push on and to stay in those grooves.
First of our 4 disciplines, male skeleton is done. Germany, GB and Germany, the top 3. The Canadians just eased out, but that's very close. And a little further down, you can see that the US teams have got work to do. And it was Germany's veteran slider, Frank Rommel. We say veteran, he hasn't even got to 30 yet, but he is the lead-out man for Germany 1. A great run. Really neat work from Frank Rommel. Our coach Jens Muller, a former luge athlete in his time as a slider, very pleased with that. Rommel, likewise, we heard from him earlier, very chuffed. Well, the bobsleds under the umbrellas to stop the runners getting too hot, because the hotter the runner, the quicker it melts the surface of the ice and the slicker the running surface becomes. So they are measured against a control steel runner, which is hung in the shade near the start, and you can be plus or minus 2 degrees still to stay legal. Martin Stukur's there just in the front of shot walking down the track. He's the reigning world, Olympic and European champion in men's skeleton. Unfortunately, not enough Latvian disciplines being represented to have a full Latvian team here. And for the others, perhaps maybe that's not a bad thing, because he would certainly get off very well indeed in the men's skeleton. Well, let's meet the athletes. Here are our German team. You see Max Arndt and the rest of the crew. Well, that is the team Germany 1. Germany 2, Francesco Friedrich there, a new world champion, crowned just today, the youngest ever in men's bobsleigh, and Frank Rommel. Sandra Kyriasis will be part of the Germany 1 team. Lyndon Rush and the Canadians showing plenty of game face here. Another world champion in the lineup. Kaylee Humphries claimed the women's gold medal. Guns in the sun. Katie Uhlaender, Jasmine Fenlater, and the rest of the US team. And this is a great opportunity for the brakemen and women who don't necessarily get to compete in the main World Championships to have a race. What about the Swiss? They'll be looking for some home glory here. Bit of magic dust, perhaps, Swiss styling. Canada looking to worry the judges with glamour with the Canada 2 team. And an Olympic champion in the lineup. You can't argue with that, although the dancing might need work. And what about the Austrians? Two brothers competing in the men's lineup. World champion Stephen Holcomb. The USA team took the team's title along with the 2- and 4-man bobsleigh crowns last year in Lake Placid. Team Great Britain won, and Team Great Britain 2, both looking to contest the gold medal spots here. Definitely, they may slide, but not many can dance, can they? And the Russians. And the Romanians, one of the youngest nations in the sport, and clearly some of the lightest. We've got a silver medalist from the men's bobsleigh competition, Bert Hefty, representing the Swiss as well. Well, one of the great things, Helen Upton, that all the athletes agree about this team's competition is it is just good fun. Of course, when the visor comes down, they're competing, but it's just fun to hang out with teammates from other disciplines.
It is. It's a great event, and skeleton and women's bobsleigh only have one chance to compete at the World Championships. This team event gives them another race opportunity.
It absolutely does, and the gold medals here are just as good as they are for every other discipline. So on the ice end, Maria Constantin, a first-year slider in the World Cup for the Romanian team with her brakewoman Andrea Grecu. And these two coming in to the full World Cup season for the first time ever this year. Started as Romania 2 and very quickly by Christmas had adopted the Romania 1 position by virtue of their performance. A 5.84 getaway, little tap out of 1.
We saw this a lot in the women's bobsleigh world championship competition that finished yesterday. A lot of instability coming through those kinks. The women a lot lighter than the men's sleds when you combine the body weight. The sleds themselves, same weight. Adding the two athletes inside of it makes it a lot lighter. Less stability in the track.
Well, you might think that a very light skeleton sled would be less skiddy, and on most tracks, the bobsleigh would be much less skiddy, but here you're right, that slow section, there's almost no control of the sled at all.
Yeah, and the skeleton sleds are actually remarkably heavy compared to how they look, and they have such a low center of gravity.
101.6 kilometers an hour, and to compare, Dorian Velicu on the skeleton was doing 101.2 kilometers an hour. So it's not until you really get down the mountain with big speed that they start to separate. 135.6 to the 133.7 of their skeleton sliding teammate. And it's a 110.65, and their teammate on the skeleton came down 110.60. So very different set of kit, two athletes rather than one, and yet on this 1.5 miles of ice, not much between them.
Which is surprising. It's a gravity-based sport. The heavier you are, the faster you should go. This is the exit of Sunny Curve. She's brushing the wall. She's going to head a bit of a late entry into Nash, sending her skidding and very, very out of control into Dixon, trying to regain control as she heads into Horseshoe Curve.
Well, there is Maria Constantin. Next up at the top of the ice is our 12th place team, Austria, so Christina Hengster and Inge Versen. They competed in the Women's World Championship, securing themselves a top 15 finish. Inge Versen, a university student, only started racing last weekend in Eagles, Austria, and is having this week off lectures to make sure she can contest the World Championship. 5.71 getaway, so already an extra 10th in front of the Romanians.
Just as a reference, the fastest push time we saw in the Women's World Championship event that finished yesterday was a 42 from Alana Myers from the United States. Christina Hengster, a very good pilot, good control coming out of the first kink, straightening the sled out. She's had some really great results in the last 2 seasons.
Well, she's 1.9 seconds up on Romania at the moment. Of course, the target is not just to leave those behind you further behind, but to try and close on those in front as well.
This is a really good exit out of Horseshoe. Nice parallel line from Telephone to Shamrock, 106 kilometers an hour so far.
Well, that's 66 miles an hour dead, and still accelerating hard. These 4 corners towards the end of the run really build the speed.
Little bit of instability out of Gunther Sachs, 143.1 as she heads into the uphill portion.
That's decent speed, 89 miles an hour. She gets down in just under 68 seconds. Well, that pushes the Romanians out of the leaders box. You saw them applauding their rivals as Austria take up the front running. 2 of 13 teams down in this second leg of the team's World Championships here in St. Moritz.
A really nice run from Christina Hengster. She tapped the wall heading into horseshoe, but look at that nice high line. You can't even see the runner's turn. She's really early, good parallel entry into telephone.
Well, Switzerland 2 team are next up. Michael Hofer was the lead-out man for men's skeleton, and now Caroline Spani, the Swiss bobsled champion, with Ariane Walser behind her. This is the same team that contested the Women's World Championships that finished yesterday. And she, I think, is the track record holder, or was before the Women's Bobsleigh Worlds on this Swiss track. And doesn't get her left foot over the cowl properly and has to take a second bite of the cherry at getting in, but
good push
controls
time.
turn 1, yeah.
67's the fastest push we've seen so far in this women's bobsleigh portion of the discipline.
Well, it's her push speed that has made her the Swiss champion, and in fact she is still one of the faster push starting athletes. Came off the back handles as a former brakewoman to start driving a couple of seasons ago, and is now effectively Switzerland's #1.
Good control out of Sunny, really parallel through Nash Dixon. Heading into horseshoe, you want to be middle to the right of the track, coming so close to that roof.
She controlled the exit really well, Helen. She was 800s up, she's 800s back, but the speed should turn that around for her. 105 is good.
She's a little bit slower than the Austrian sled that has just come down the track before. She's going to have to be nailing these 4 right-hand combination curves to catch up to the Austrian team.
Teammate Lukas Kummer at the top, and the Austrians at the bottom are going to hold on to the lead here, aren't they? Raphael Meyer, Christina Hengster and Inga Versen have the lead. Well, it was 400ths of a second. It's now turned into a half-second disadvantage.
Goes to show you how nice of a run Christina Hengster put down in the women's bobsleigh portion of this event. She increased that lead by a huge margin. The Swiss pilot here had a little bit of trouble loading into the sled. You can see she missed getting both feet in. She struggles, the push bar collapsing as she's trying to climb in.
Using all that height in horseshoe to try and accelerate down the track, but it is Austria that lead with 10 more women's bobsleigh competitors to come. Jasmine Fenlayton, Asia Evans had a really strong run in the women's bobsleigh competition. Let's see what they can produce. Asia, a standout find for the US team.
And Asia mentioned she was desperate to get her push into the 40s. We'll see if she does it. So close, 5:53. Great push time from this powerhouse athlete. Asia Evans' brother plays in the NFL, the Football League in the United States. She's arguably the fastest pushing brakeman in the field right now.
Well, she came into bobsledding in the fall, in the autumn, and is already the US national push champion. She's breaking records left, right, and center.
Jasmine Fenlater had 2 out of 4 heats. Very smooth, very fast, and struggled a little bit. It's an inexperienced thing from this pilot. She hasn't done a lot of 4-heat competitions. Big hit coming out of horseshoe.
She's trying to use that late exit to really drive down the hill. Speed has evaporated, 103.5.
Dropping the lead by 1/4 of a second. She's going to need to try to pick up some velocity down in the bottom of the track. The Bodine sleds usually have a very fast speed.
On 40.2 kilometers an hour, they're going to stay in front of the Austrians, surely, and the oh no, my goodness! The Austrians climbed 2 spots already.
A few mistakes that cost a little bit too much time.
Well, that 107.98 slide of Christina Hengster, very quick. Jasmine just skid here on the way into horseshoe, doesn't set her up right.
She taps the wall, but only with the front bunk, and it sends her a little bit diagonal into horseshoe. You can see her brushing the wall. She still gets a very nice high line, which is what we need to see the bobsleighs taking as they come around horseshoe, but she stays on the corner too long, bumps the wall, sending her really late into telephone curve.
A rocky ride for Jasmine and Asia Evans. Austria lead. Next up are our Russian team. Anton Batuev, the lead-out man. Now, Olga Stulneva and Nadia Sergeeva. Nadia was the alternate brakewoman for the Women's World Championship, so now she gets her World Championship start. Let's not forget that this is a World Championship event, and they're looking at trying to make it an Olympic event as well. So this is not just we're fooling around. There are medals at the end of this.
5:67 is a very competitive push time. The Russian team usually enters two different teams in this event, actually, and right now we're only seeing one Russian grouping sleds for the team event. Olga is a very, very fast-pushing athlete. The Russians actually had a very good day yesterday in the women's World Championship field. They pulled up a lot of spots, great drives from both the pilots.
The downside of that was 2 of their 3 two-man sleds were disqualified. The drivers were mistakenly given the wrong sleds to drive, and you are not allowed to change your equipment in a competition. 106.1, good speed here.
Good speed and another nice controlled run from this pilot.
She is holding the first round advantage almost to the 100. Little wide and high there. That's a good exit out of Sachs.
Small brush on the wall, still a quarter of a second of a lead, probably enough to keep her in front.
Yeah, she's only a kilometre now down on the Austrian, so she will lead it at the line. 108.07 slide. Again, not in the 7s like Christina Hengstra of Austria. But Helen, we forecast at the beginning that we'd see a lot of changes in the order as stronger and weaker components of each of these national teams took their part.
Yeah, and we'll see the order of the performances jumping around even more when the men's skeleton discipline, or the women's skeleton discipline, sorry, competes in the next round.
That's one of the great things about this competition. You win as a team or you lose as a team. It's not about one individual performance. So Russia has the lead. Next up is our Swiss 1 team. Started off by Lukas Kummer. Here is Fabian Meyer with Elisabeth Graf. And again, it's the same combination like the Swiss 2 team that competed in the Women's World Championship that finished yesterday.
You can see Fabian bent over that bar trying to get as much momentum into that 170+ kilo sled pushed over 50 meters. Great control out of the first kink. Nice straight lines coming very close to the left wall round kink number 2.
Barely daring to breathe in case you send the sled into a skid. The Aussies, the Latvians all watching from the side.
Small slide through Snake 2 and a little brush against the wall into Sunny and out of Sunny. Fabian Meyer's the most experienced slider on this track. They've got a lot of cowbell, home field fans cheering them on in both their World Championship events. The women finished yesterday. This team race is giving the skeleton athletes a couple of runs before their training starts, as they will be competing next weekend.
There's no unfair advantage. It means anybody in the skeleton, in the team race, will have to miss out on a regular day of training, which would be 2 runs. The one extra run they get in the team's competition is perhaps the little slight edge that they might have. There you see Lukas Kummer. He's celebrating in the leaders box. His teammates Fabian Meyer and Elisabeth Graf will join him. Started 55 seconds in front, finished 29 seconds in front, so they have lost ground over the Russians. Through Sunny Corner, the sun that gives it its name is there at midday. It's now gone as we're into the early afternoon hours. And Helen Upperton, Fabian Meyer, former junior world champion, doing enough to keep the Swiss in contention there. Well, next up is USA's Alana Myers. Lolo Jones, the track and field sprinter who joined the team at the beginning of the season, spent the Women's World Championship sled dogging, running around, doing all the donkey work. Now we get to see her explosive speed behind Alana Myers.
Yeah, she was really disappointed to not compete in the women's race, but the American women's bobsleigh team have the most competitive starters out of all of the nations. Lolo Jones having a spectacular rookie season as a bobsleigh athlete, especially coming from track and field.
I know anybody who's following her on Twitter will see that she is falling for this sport hook, line and sinker. And you could not find a more enthusiastic bobsledder, I think, if you looked for a week.
Alana Myers putting together a nice top portion of the track, making the most of her amazing starts. She had the start records in the women's discipline that they completed yesterday. Nice smooth run, coming off of a silver medal result, her best, while tying her best World Championship result when she won as a silver as a brakeman.
She was bronze last year in Lake Placid, silver here in St. Moritz. That's good progress up to the Olympic Games a year from now. 106 kilometers an hour is very good speed indeed. Streaking away from the Swiss. What's she going to lead by at the line? 54 hundredths of a second. That's a great run from Alana Myers. Well,
really nice run from Alana. 4 consistent heats and finishing her off with a 5th and final run on the St. Moritz track in 2013.
And yesterday, her silver was turned to gold by her boyfriend, Nick Taylor, who proposed to her right after the finishing ceremony. So what a weekend she's having.
This is a high line in Shamrock. You can see the sled sliding off the corner. She's going to hit that right wall, sending her back away from that corner.
See the kid there at the front of the sled humping around, Cody Bascu. He's come over this week from Lake Placid to watch the Worlds. Oh, yeah, next week, he's driving a 4-man for Team USA, 18 years old. Next up for Great Britain, Paula Walker. And Paula has got her regular 2-man brakewoman behind her, Jill Cook. So the soldier from Trowbridge in Wiltshire and the former hurdler and track sprinter from Edinburgh. Paula, a junior women's world bobsleigh champion. And Jill Cook with Nikki Minicello took the women's title 3-4 now years ago in women's bobsleigh.
Paula Walker, a very tall athlete in the women's field. Small tap on the wall as she comes through kink 1.
Well, John is down at the bottom. Who have you caught up with from Team USA, John?
A great run again, huh?
Yeah, you know, Lolo did a great job pushing me today. I'm kind of fatigued, and to come out and push a 46, that's huge. So we just want to do all we can to get USA back on top.
How smooth is this track?
I love it. It's nice. It's very smooth.
JD, you got a pretty good team going here.
Yeah, I got lucky. Got pitted with the USA 1 team, so try to do my part, and I think we're all going to do well.
Oh, little late exit there from Paula Walker. The team have gone from a couple of hundreds in front to half a second behind. And again, we're seeing the balance of power changing with the various different disciplines. You put a World Championship silver medalist in the women's bobsleigh lineup for Team USA, and they're benefiting from that.
Yeah, Alana Myers definitely is going to close the gap on the British skeleton advantage that was produced. Paula Walker having an okay run, but a big hit out of horseshoe dropped her velocity through the bottom portion of the track.
Yeah, only 140.7, so 2 kilometers an hour down. There's Christian Bromley, the lead-out man for GB1. Paula Walker didn't have as good a time in the women's competition as she was hoping for, was looking for a little better there, and I'm afraid she might not be quite as pleased as she would like.
Really high line through horseshoe, very close to the roof. We want to see a bit of an earlier exit. She comes off too diagonal, the ice spraying as her bunks hit the left wall.
Yep, and just reminding everybody that, yes, ice is indeed slippery. It's everywhere here waiting to trip you up. Well, next up, the familiar Canadian colours and the goggles mean just one thing. Our Olympic and double world champion Kaylee Humphries. She has not lost a race since, what, last November 2011, something like that? An insane period of time that she has been at the top and on the podium. Even if she hasn't taken gold, she's been silver and bronze.
54.6 kilometers an hour is a great velocity. Chelsea Valois is having an amazing rookie season in the sport, hitting the podium in every single competition, giving Kaylee the start she needs to get onto the podium.
Well, you know, she is like a rookie quarterback who's been drafted in, having never played football, making it to the Super Bowl. She's won a world championship. That's only her 9th ever race in a bobsled.
Kaylee didn't have her best run on the 4th and final heat, hitting that wall at a horseshoe again like she did on the 4th run, but it wasn't enough to bump her out of the massive advantage she took in the Women's World Championship event.
104.5 kilometers an hour, fraction slower than we saw from Alana Myers.
And 0.02 of a second over this bottom portion of the track is not a lot of time to work with.
This is where she digs it out. The Eurotech sled is fast. 142. Going to be very close at the line. Will she still be green? Yes, she is.
Really nice bottom portion of the track from Kaylee, improving that advantage from 200ths to 1500ths of a second, giving the Canadian women's skeleton and men's two-man bobsleigh a little bit more room to work with.
Well, that keeps it nice and tight, doesn't it? And gives both those teams a chance to get into the top 3.
5:49, you're 54.6 kilometers an hour, your first walk.
Jessie Lumsden giving Kaylee her split times and push times, letting her know how nice of a run she had. She actually hits the roof, but the experience of this pilot, she doesn't panic. It sends her a little bit diagonal, tapping the left wall. Not too bad, a little bit of a mistake, but a great run from Kaylee, especially in the bottom portion of the track.
Well, there on the right, Kaylee Humphries. On the left, Chelsea Valois, the women's world champions. And next up are their teammates. Last year in the Women's World Championship, Jennifer Cacchetti braked for Kaylee Humphries. They went to gold. Now she's driving against her. And whoa, she's got to get that handle in. Emily Badsvik gets her World Championship start behind Jen. They got a good getaway, 5.57.
Jenny doing a better job, having said that, tap on the left wall, but she struggled through those kinks in the women's event. And actually, it's very difficult to get that push bar down. Once you have to have your hands on the D-rings, it's very strategic. You actually have to drive the sled away from the wall to make sure when you release the push bar, it doesn't hit the wall and bounce and drag down the track.
Well, let's hear now from our Olympic champion, Kaylee Humphries, is with John Morgan.
Kaylee, you hit the lip there in Horseshoe?
Yeah, that was not so nice. I haven't done that all week, and that's the first time I've ever hit the lip in Horseshoe. So a little bit of a panic and just tried to hold it off. We hit real hard coming out, but I really just didn't want to crash out of that corner.
Well, you're still in the lead. Hang in there.
Well, that wouldn't be a great end to a World Championships. They gave her a gold individual medal to crash out of Horseshoe. That's for sure. 139.9 speed from Jen Cacchetti down at the bottom. But they slipped, my goodness, down to 6th position.
Yeah. Sean Montgomery fooling around in the winner's box. Jenny, an inexperienced pilot. This is her first World Championship event in the driver's seat. She won a gold medal last year with Kaylee on the brakes. A very strong pushing athlete. If she sticks around in the sport, she's going to do nothing but improve. High line here coming out of Shamrock, brushing the right wall. The biggest mistake I think Jenny made was with the load. The push bar stayed out past the first kink.
Jen and M and John Montgomery as we now get our first German team on the ice. This is Germany 2. Alexander Krökel, the lead-out man. Former world champion Kathleen Martini with Janina Tischer behind her. The green colours of Saxony on Martini's sled. Just 30 years old, still potentially lots more world championship winning chances for this girl.
5:62, good start time. The Germans have struggled a little bit at the push. They used to be the push powerhouses, surpassed now by the North American teams. Kaylee Humphries, Alana Myers, Jasmine Fenlater have really started to take the sport to a new level at the start. Kathleen Martini, Sandra Kiriasis, two of the most experienced drivers in the field. Very, very smooth, almost effortless steering. She's 1100ths back as she heads through Nash-Dixon.
Well, this pair started 5.62. Alana Myers and Lolo Jones, 5.46. It's a big deficit to be making up.
106.1, huge speed coming out of Horseshoe, really great velocity. We'll see if it can help her close the gap as she goes through these combination right-handed corners of leap, sacks.
She should be in the green at the next speed marker because she is absolutely flying. 145, no, 142.2. That should be enough, though, to put them into the lead slenderly over Canada 1. Wow, 400s. I tell you what, that was the brush with the woodwork, never mind the rough landing.
Christoph Langen celebrating in the coach's box. Always good to keep your sled in the lead as we head through. We've got two more disciplines coming down the track, women's bobsleigh and then men's bobsleigh, the anchor leg of this relay.
The Germans have rather greedily won almost every World Championship team event, so maybe they just gave the Americans a bit of breathing space in Lake Placid, and now they want the gold medal back again. They've got two teams in the top 3.
Great shot here in Horseshoe. The sled's just brushing the roof. Kaylee Humphries actually making contact. You can see how aerodynamic they are. sitting nice and low, tapping the wall. This is where that gap closed. She only stayed ahead by a few hundredths of a second. It's uphill at the bottom of the track. Gotta stay off the walls.
Now we're just hearing that the team that led for most of the first heat, Great Britain 2, is out. Apparently there is a technical problem, whether it's an issue with temperature of the runners or the sled of WCh and Kelly Denyer or something else, I do not know. Try and get a little more for you on that in a moment. So the race being led by Germany 2, next up Germany 1. Sandra Kyriasis, the most successful women's bobsledder in terms of medal hauls in history. She's the all-time record holder with 3 golds and 4 total medals in the team competition alone. It's only been held 5 times. And she'll be looking definitely to add a 5th medal to that here in St. Moritz. Oh my goodness, you know, what this girl has not done is a much easier list than the things that she has done. She's been a 5-time consecutive World Cup champion, season-long victor. She's had an Olympic gold medal. She's had 3 single individual World Championship gold medals. And still, at 37 years old, she grinds out the results, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's nearing the end of her career, and a phenomenal career in the sport. 5:65 is a great push time for Sandra Kyriasis. She is such a good pilot. She's won so many medals. Yesterday in the women's event, she put down a smoker of a 3rd run, the fastest heat, moving her into medal contention, and she ended up walking away with another World Championship medal.
Yeah, she took the bronze behind Alana Myers. Her teammate Kathleen Martini is with John Morgan.
Kathleen, good run?
Yeah, a little bit better in the upper part, but the hit after the sacks is killing me. Every time I get this bump there, and yeah, we hope it's going good.
Yeah, still good speed in the bottom. Congratulations.
Well, huge speed as well at Tree from Sandra Kyriasis, 107.8 kilometers an hour. Really flying. Only in the men's race do you see anything much quicker. Frank Rommel, the lead-out man, seeing that lead being built from a half to nearly a full second.
This Germany team is going to be hard to catch, even in the skeleton field, where the times have a bit of a bigger gap. A 9/10 of a second lead is a huge margin in the sliding sports.
And the real problem for everyone else is that the team that was between the 2 Germans, GB1, is out. GB2 rather is out, so WCh and Kelly Denyer do not get to compete. Neither will Donna Crichton, neither will Lamin Dean and Jim Galvin, who was looking for his first World Championship start. So big disappointment for the GB2 team. But it is Germany 1 leading, Germany 2 in second. That's opened up the field for Canada as well. Kaylee Humphries' drive puts Canada 1 into 3rd position, halfway through this team's World Championship competition.
See these razor-sharp spikes digging into the ice as they push over a 50-meter distance. Sandra Kyriasis showing why she was the dominant force in women's bobsleigh for over a decade, putting together an incredibly smooth and incredibly fast run. Fastest velocity out of Horseshoe, the first sled we've seen over 107 kilometers an hour today.
Well, in history almost repeating itself 2 generations on, the British sled of WCh and Kelly Denyer had a problem with the bolts in the runners. Where's Eugenio Monti when you need him? Germany 1, Germany 2, Canada 1, the top 3 at the moment, but look at the gap with the US creeping up behind the Canadians for medal contention. Switzerland 1 and GB1 not out of it. GB2, though, are the story with Eugenio Monti and the 1964 Winter Games, Tony Nash and Robin Dixon. They had a broken bolt in their suspension in their runners. They were loaned one by Eugenio Monti from his own sled that he'd just competed in and taken back to the top of the track. They went on to deny him the gold medal as they won gold in '64. That's the Eugenio Monti reference. If there was an Italian with a spare bolt, I'm sure the girls would have been very happy to have taken it off them. Eugenio Monti did, in the end, go on to win an individual gold medal in the Winter Olympic Games after many World Championship golds. It looked as though the Olympics would deny him, but he finally got his just desserts and is rightly remembered for his sportsmanship as much as his speed on the ice. Well, history is all around us here in St. Moritz, and you get the echoes of it all over the place, wherever you look. Every year the track is different, Helen Upperton, but every year the track is the same. It's the same as it's been for 60, 70, 80 years. The names remain and the challenge remains, that the old-timers and the ghosts that hang around this Dracula starting building at the top, they'd all recognise.
Yeah, it's an amazing venue, and there's something very special about returning to the birthplace of the sliding sports to compete in the biggest event of the season. St. Moritz, like you said, it's a hand-built track. Every year the corners are slightly different, a little bit longer, a little bit higher, makes it very unique.
Well, this team's competition is halfway through. We've had the opening leg of men's skeleton, we've had the women's bobsleigh, and now the field will be shuffled again. We'll go last to fast, worst to first, or 13th down to 1, 12 down to 1 now, however you like, in women's skeleton, and then go into the final two-man bobsleigh. There are Spanish and Slovenian sliders who will be competing in the Women's World Championships next week in women's skeleton. And down at the Horseshoe Bar, brand new grandstand there on the left of your shot, over the road that the buses and the trucks bringing the sleds travel up. And the Horseshoe Bar, a great location, lots of noise, just occasionally fueled by a little bit of Glühwein. And of course, right in front of you, a view of one of the great corners of ice sliding sport.
Yeah, the favorite replay of all the old sliding videos, those old sleds with the steering wheels, the fire oven sleds flying towards the roof with all the spectators standing on the top watching the sleds go by. There's such a great history on this venue.
And when you can tear your eyes away from the spectacle on the track, you don't have to look far to see the glory of nature around you either. This is just in every way a wonderful venue. Well, you can see fans, old and young, you can see athletes competing and having competed and yet to compete lining this track as we get ready for the third of 4 disciplines in the Teams World Championship competition. In reverse order of their standing so far, they will go into the third heat. 12 sleds will go in the women's skeleton leg. They'll be headed off by Romania. The German teams that lie first and second will be the last to go to try and extend, stroke defend their lead. So next up then is our Romanian slider in the women's skeleton competition, Maria Mazilou. Looking forward to her first World Championships as a Romanian slider.
The skeleton athletes not having a chance to get much runs on the track yet. Their event is happening next weekend, held over 2 days, 4 runs of cumulative competition.
5.45 is the start time. We will see the faster athletes going perhaps a good quarter of a second quicker than that. They're one of the younger athletes. She's only been sliding for 3 full seasons.
See the athletes as they head down these straightaways, dragging their toes, pressing their shoulders into the steel to try to control the direction of the sled. Skeleton sleds have a very low center of gravity, a lot of control in the straightaways.
Unlike the bobsled, which has a steering mechanism and a moving axle, this is a flat tray with rocked runners underneath, a little bit like a rocking chair. And you use the whole body for steering. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, all are used to direct the sled subtly or aggressively around the corner, depending on A, the nature of the corner, and B, how right or how wrong you've got it.
Also used as the full aerodynamic position. It's very important how they lay on their sleds. Shoulders down, toes pointed, nice and aerodynamic, chin just fractions of inches off the ice.
At 83 miles an hour through the final speed trap, and a great slide, 110.84. That will be the first time in her career that she has established a track record. The record was set during the Swiss Skeleton Championships just before New Year's. And so Maria Mazilou has beaten the best time a Swiss athlete managed in their national championships. And for this young girl from Romania, she doesn't know it yet, but she's got a track record for the first time in her sliding career.
Watching the exit of Sunny here, you can see her put that right leg out to try regain some stability, having a good entry into the Nash curve. The track record here in St. Moritz is reset every single year because the track changes every single year.
Well, let's see if Barbara Hosch for Switzerland too can improve on that. Yelled away by her coach Mickey Grumberger, the former skeleton world champion on his own right.
5:79 push time, not quite as fast as the sled that went down before her, but a lot of experience on this track. Again, these Swiss athletes have a home field advantage. They've been sliding since the track was built in December, getting a lot of extra run volume, which always gives you an advantage in the sliding sports.
Well, Barbara, being based in Switzerland, also slides on the Cresta Run. One day in every season is Women's Day on the Cresta Run, when females are allowed to race. The rest, it is a men's only racetrack. So she does both types of skeleton sliding. She says she wouldn't mind a day's practice or so, because otherwise you end up crashing a lot more than racing.
You can see her dragging her foot as she comes through the horseshoe curve to have a nice exit. You can just tell by the way these Swiss athletes head down the track that they have so much experience. They're so relaxed, a lot of runs.
Well, she's still in the lead, or the team are, but this is not as quick a run as the Romanian. And she comes across the line to stop the clocks in 1:11.63. So she doesn't improve the track record. Well, that leaves Romania in second place, still behind the Swiss, with our 10 remaining teams still to come. That slide by Maria Mazalou has closed the gap to Switzerland.
She's on a little bit of a lower line than the other skeleton sleds we've seen so far come down this track. The pressure keeping her on the short wall. This is such a great shot here to see how close these athletes are riding to the ice.
There is Barbara Hosch, and here is world champion Katie Uhlaender. Katie with a great explosive sprinting style. Also a weightlifter tried to make the cut for the US Summer Olympic team for London 2012, came just a whisker away from it.
Trying very hard to keep her sled straight and off that right wall through the first kink.
She's twice been a season-long World Cup champion. She's been an America's Cup champion. She finished in the top 6 in the Olympic Games, and to add to a silver and a bronze that she won in 08 and 07, she took a gold medal in the Women's World Championships last year on home ice in the USA.
It's a lot of pressure for these defending World Championship athletes. You always want to get back on top of that podium, and Katie Uhlaender is always a threat to do that. She's a very competitive athlete. She's won a lot of medals in her career in the sport.
100.9 kilometers now, good speed, 62.7, and again here in St. Moritz, even Katie's keeping her heels relatively close together. Not so much strong steering to be done. 135.7, very good speed at the bottom. The American men were only doing 137 kilometers an hour, and it is a new track record for Katie Uhlaender, 110.22.
Skeleton sleds trying to slow down, dragging their feet. They've got the foam pads to help stop them as they come up the braking stretch. A really nice run from Katie, especially in the bottom of the track. She picked up a lot of velocity.
The least gamey part of their sport is getting stopped, isn't it?
The reason why Katie's so fast in the track is because she's got less contact with the ice with her feet. She's on the right line so often that she needs less contact with her feet on the ice to control the direction of the sled.
She joins her teammates in the leader's box. And next up, we see the familiar cow horns on the front of the sled, the helmet even, of Janina Flock of Austria. Well, a great second leg from their women's bobsleigh driver has put the Austrians in with a definite shot at medal contention. Let's see if they can produce a little bit more from this.
5:41, good push time. You can see her pre-steering through these kinks, but it sends her very close to the left wall as she heads into wall curve, managing to keep it nice and straight down that straightaway. A little bit of a late entry into Snake 1. The top portion of the track is where you build all the speed. She's 100th of a second behind. You can see her splits in the red.
John Morgan's caught up with our women's skeleton world champion. Let's hear from Katie Uhlaender.
Katie, first trip down the track in a competitive sense. How do you think you did?
I had some pretty big mistakes up top, which I think cost me some speed. I did the best I could, though. The sled was breaking away on me throughout the run.
Not bad track record.
Oh, really?
Don't be so critical of yourself.
Pretty skiddy too, as you can see. Janine Flock not facing forwards that often, getting very sideways. Drops behind, speed only 133 kilometers an hour. And they drop half a second behind the USA. That's Antoine, closest to us. Jasmine Fenn-Later.
Katie Eulander being quite critical of her run. As you see, all these skeleton sleds are actually quite skiddy. The track becoming more skiddy as the afternoon goes on. Like you mentioned, there's over 50 men's bobsleigh sleds that have already gone down this track this morning in the World Championship heats 3 and 4 of the men's competition.
Little logo on the front of Janine Flock's helmet, holy cow. And it wasn't quite the holy cow run she'd hoped for, as Austria slipped behind the USA. Switzerland lie 3rd, Romania 4th, with 8 teams to come. Well, from one red and white suit to another, and another who's got the beef on the sled. In this case, Alberta beef for Melissa Hollingsworth of Canada. Another standout in the history of women's skeleton. But she's not bad with the microphone either, as we hope to get her to prove during the course of the World Championships.
Melissa Hollingsworth has had so much success in the sport of skeleton. She's not having the season that she wants to, but she tends to ramp up her preparation. She has been sliding for so long, and she's still such a young athlete. Really nice transition through the snake curves, trying to get back with an early entry into Sunny.
Multiple World Cup champion. Of course, she was the bronze medalist in the Torino Olympic Games as well. As you say, still just 32 years old. She's still got, if she wants to, yet another Olympic cycle in her. 102 kilometers an hour. That's good speed as well. She is on her way, perhaps, to breaking the track record again.
You definitely see the control and the relaxation of these very experienced sliders. Small tap on the wall coming out of Gunther Sachs, heading into the uphill portion of the track.
She is a classical stylist of the old school. John Montgomery celebrating 109.9.
Huge downtime for Melissa Hollingsworth, stretching the lead of her Canadian team to over 0.5 of a second.
Well, that is a big margin. We've still got half of our field to come, but the Canadians, with their 3rd leg, looking very strong.
The skeleton sleds typically are the difference makers in this team competition, with the gaps in the downtimes being a little bit bigger than in bobsleigh. You can see Melissa Hollingsworth here, a little bit high in Gunther Sachs. She brushes the right wall, but look how quickly she maintains her position back on the sled.
Lots of bodies at the top, lots of bodies at the bottom. Next up then is Svetlana Vassilieva of Russia. I'm going to have to change my teeth before she slides again. Now, she's not started a World Cup race this season. 5:29 start, and that is a very big getaway.
The Russian Federation obviously building momentum to hosting the 2014 Olympics in just over 12 months' time.
They have got a junior world champion in their skeleton lineup as well. Yelena Nikitina has proved to be electrifyingly fast in just 2 World Cup appearances in her career.
Bit of a correction steer heading into Sunny to try to get a nice entry. She's early onto Nash, trying to stay away from that left wall. You do not want a late entry into horseshoe curve.
Not bad. Let's catch up with Melissa Hollingsworth. She's with John Morgan.
Record, how did the track feel?
It's great. You know, we come to St. Moritz and it's so smooth and it's a lot of fun. I guess we're going ahead of the Russians, so we're kind of excited right now.
Congratulations, keep it going.
There you are, live interview just as the lead changes hands from 2100s up to 2100s back. Goodness me, it was all about the start, wasn't it, with Sergeyeva? And a 110.4 slide. Go team. You can wave your Maple Leaf flag now.
Always cheering for my Canadian teammates.
Go Canada. The Russian shakes ahead a little. She lost speed really below horseshoe. She was just about holding her lead until that stage.
Yeah, the bottom velocity is so important as you head uphill. An incredible start time from this Russian athlete. If she's an inexperienced slider, she's going to get more and more successful in this discipline with a push time like 5:29.
That was a very, very explosive start. Olga Stolneva with her, former silver medalist in 4x100 meters relay. As we next get our first team on the ice. This is Lizzie Arnold of Great Britain, former junior world champion in women's skeleton. Last time she raced here in St. Moritz, it was her second ever World Cup race. She won it.
5:34, very good push time, one of the fastest times we've seen a pre-steer into the first kink and into the second kink, but maintaining a nice centered straight line.
Well, Lizzie is such a natural, relaxed slider. The coach, Mickey Grunberger, last year was telling me, he said, you know, Amy Williams always had to work hard at it, but Shelley and Lizzie, he said, it just flows out of them. She's got a big future, he reckons. And look at this, 0.6 of a second up. They've doubled their lead already. This stands a chance of putting them up towards the medals for Great Britain.
Really nice line through horseshoe, maintaining a 0.6 of a second lead and over 100 kilometers an hour through this bottom portion of the track. The British skeleton program, both men and women, so much success in the past. Medals in all of the last few Olympics.
She's come from 6 to 4/10 in front. Got to hold on to this lead. 4:10 still ahead of Canada too, and just a tiny little rub in Portago. A new track record though, 109.76, and that will please Lizzie. Kristen Bromley, Jill Cook, and Paula Walker there you see as John Montgomery's fingers undoubtedly popped into shot there as he indicates there in second place. I think that's what he was indicating.
As we mentioned, in the sliding sports, there's 3 parts that get you on top of the podium. Fast start, good drive, good equipment. She had a great push and a really nice smooth run down the track. Nice line. We've seen a few athletes brush this right wall, but you don't see a very hard impact. She maintained really good velocity.
Well, that's a 9 from the rather fey English judge there. I'm not sure what she needed to get a 10. We'll wait and see. Now, an ex-bobsleigh push athlete is always going to have plenty of power, and that's what Marina Giardoni has. She has one of the standout starts in women's skeleton. Swiss bobsledding's loss has definitely been Swiss skeleton's gain. She is the national champion. And she that set the track record that has just been beaten about 5 times. Let's see if she can up the ante.
5:29, tying the fastest push time. Swiss athletes have a home field advantage. They've got a lot of fans supporting them. They're getting prepared for their events that are going to be happening this weekend.
Nice lines. And of course, the track only opens at the beginning of December, closes at the beginning of March, so you don't get much time on it. The Swiss have that vital extra week, Christmas, New Year week, where they always hold their national championships. And that's a much better dealing with the Exeter Horseshoe than from her teammate Barbara Hosch, but she's gone back, and she's only 98.8 to 100.8 of Lizzie Arnold, the fastest slider so far.
We've seen a couple of the women's skeleton sleds over 100 kilometers an hour out of horseshoe. It's really important. She might continue to drop time. She has. It's almost half a second she's fallen behind our leaders.
Well, they were 2/10 up at the start, and they go to 6/10 behind. A 1:10.46 slide. Not what she would have hoped for.
So he can throw it down to me if he wants.
Let's hear from John Morgan. Who have you got with you, John?
Lizzie Arnold, first good chance to get a practice run on the St. Moritz track. You did pretty good.
It was amazing. It actually feels really great today. It feels a bit better than 2 days ago where the ice was a bit harder. It's really enjoyable to slide in the afternoon. So great light as well. There's no blinding from the sun, which is helpful.
Well, obviously you went pretty fast. Great Britain's in the lead.
Well, as we all know, Lizzie's secret is she slides with her eyes permanently closed anyway. She does it by radar and telepathy. Next up, Noelle Pikers-Pace, a girl who was sidelined by injury and then retired from the sport, spent 2 years away, was persuaded to try it again 12 months ago, went, no, I can live without it. And her husband persuaded her one more time to start competing. And boy, it's like she never left.
Noelle is an unbelievable skeleton slider. She's a little bit lacking at the start, but she is lightning fast in the track. So much finesse, such smooth lines, and so comfortable and relaxed on her sled.
And if there's anywhere that plays to her strengths of being long and heavy, this is the place. All sorts of body types work in skeleton. It's all about feel for the athlete. And again, feel, Noelle has got more than enough of that.
It's not just that, it's also the length of track. If you have a start deficit, you need as much track as possible to try to catch up to those sleds that have faster velocities and faster push times. This is 1,722 meters of track to try to catch up to those powerhouse starters.
Before a couple of weeks ago, when she won her first World Cup race of the season, Noelle had only ever won 4 top flight races in her life. 3 World Cup races, and as she sets the track record here in St. Moritz, the 4th race that Noelle won in her career, the 2007 World Championships, which were on this track. Noelle Piker's pace is back to the scene of her greatest ever triumph and in some of the form of her life.
108.92 just blew the field away. They've given this US team a huge advantage.
Well, that is nearly a second quicker than Lizzie Arnold, who just beaten the track record 2 sleds earlier. Go Noelle.
You can see them celebrating at the bottom.
Well, now, what pressure that puts on Canada, and what a great opportunity for Sarah Reid to respond. An explosive starter from one of the tallest to absolutely the smallest athletes on tour, from 5'10" and change to 5'1" and fractions. 5.29 start from her. She's got the lead. John Morgan's with Noelle Piker's pace.
Noelle looked like perfect lines down the track record.
Thank you. Wow, I feel incredible. I love this track, and it's just meshing really well. Woo, USA!
Way to go.
Way to go indeed. 5.29 for Sarah Reid. Equal fast start with Marina Giardoni of Switzerland.
She's going to have to be very, very good in the track to maintain the type of speeds and times that Noelle just put down. That she came down ahead of her. Sarah Reid, an incredible athlete, a little bit less experienced than some of the sliders in this field, but following in the footsteps of Michelle Kelly, Melissa Hollingsworth, a powerhouse Canadian skeleton program. She's had an amazing season so far.
Yeah, what started the season with gold in Lake Placid, the season opener. Can she get in amongst the medals in this team's competition to open her World Championship? She's fallen behind Noelle Piker's pace's genius run by half a second, and she's going to be 8 behind at the line, or the cumulative team time is a 109.9 slide empirically. That's a good run.
It actually is the exact same time as her teammate Melissa Hollingsworth came down the track. The Canadians must be on the same program.
Neat. Yeah, they had the same breakfast. That's another great run from Sarah Reid, but Noelle Piker's pace. Okay, let's get to the bookies and find out what the odds on her being world champion again in St. Moritz are. USA lead from Canada and Great Britain. 2 to come. Well, Germany 2 lie in second place. Germany 1 in the lead, and it's our 2008 world champion Anja Huber, who is going next up. She is the women's skeleton slider for the Germany 2 team. Anja Huber, a veteran now of over 60 World Cup races. She said, I feel like the grandma in the team. 29. Come on, give me a break on this. But so experienced. The girl from Bischofswiesen, just close to the Königssee track in Bavaria. Well, big starts are part of her armory. Let's see what she can produce here. 5:31.
A couple hundredths off our fastest pushers, but enough to stay competitive. She's an amazing slider, very successful. The first time I met Anja Huber was actually at a push competition in Guadalajara, Mexico. You figure you have a bobsleigh and skeleton push starts in Mexico.
Well, let's catch up with John Morgan with our leaders, USA 1.
The heat your teammate just put down.
That was phenomenal. I think she beat most of the guys, so I'm just glad I don't have to race against her this weekend.
Congratulations, you guys are in a great spot.
The voice of John Daly, honest as ever. Little late off horseshoe, rocky transitions for Anja Huber. This is not playing well. They're going behind the USA.
to follow a time like Noelle Pickett's pace just put down, you know you're going to have to be almost flawless in the track. That was a huge margin of track record that she managed to complete.
The team are going to be turned over by better than a second. Come on, this is insane. Half a second behind, 7/10 behind at the line. They were 3/10 up at the start. Noelle Piker's pace's track record has changed the complexion of this competition yet again.
This is remarkable, actually. Noelle is almost a second ahead of the rest of the field, who are actually only separated by hundredths of a second. We had a 109.90, a 109.88, a 109.76.
Yeah, it's like she's in the minors and she's a major league slider.
Still a really nice run from Anja Huber, showing her class, her experience. Small steer with her left foot, a bit of a diagonal transition into telephone, but maintaining a really nice aerodynamic position on the sled.
With Kathleen Martini there chatting away as our final slider in the women's skeleton leg gets underway. Now, if Germany are going to win here, Marion Thies will definitely need to play her part. What she doesn't do, she's just finished. What she does do, she's just starting. Well, John's got Frank Rommel, who led off for the Germany 1 team with the fastest men's heat. Let's catch up with him now.
Hey, Frank, the Americans put down quite a heat to get back in the field, huh?
Yeah, it was quite a smoking run of Noelle. Really good run. I hope Marion can beat her.
Yeah, I think it's going to be between Marion and Noelle in the World Championships anyways. Good preview.
Yeah.
Well, Frank Rommel's run was a 107.76. Noelle Piker's pace was not far off that pace. Well, Marion Thies from 8800s up when she lay down, off a 5.62 start, the gap down under half a second. Ping balls off the wall, 2200s in front.
Big speed though out of Horseshoe. We've seen our fastest sleds in the 1:00 times coming out of Horseshoe Curve. Really good speed, but falling behind.
In the red for the first time. It's when she's got kilometers of ice that this girl is at her most dangerous. It's at the high speed, but there's a big skid. Sandra Kyriasis says no. She shakes her head. They're going down. They are staying down. USA falls into the lead. Wow, what a turnaround. USA, the team champions last year, lead into the final leg. It'll come down to the men's bobsled. Well, she comes up short, but not by much. 1:10.62 now for Marion Thies. That's worrying. That was only the 9th run of that heat, 9th fastest. That ain't good.
Surprising run from Marion. She's a very experienced slider. She's got a lot of successful races under her belt.
Wow, Katie Ulender, the fastest individual. She wasn't sure Noelle Piker's pace was the fastest individual slide in that heat.
This is Noelle. Pink handles on the sled.
There you go, I beg your pardon. The stars and stripes on the leggings led me astray. She's so familiar for her pink suit over the years. And the significance, not just the track record that she put the USA right to the top of the pile again, but the fastest individual athletes get €500 each in each leg, so that's more money. She did this in the race before Christmas, took the kids to Disneyland Paris in the Christmas break, and now she's done it again, so that might buy, what, lunch, I think, in St. Moritz. USA lead, 6/10 up on Germany 1, 7/10 up on Germany 2, with Canada sniffing around the medals, GB in 5th and Canada 2 in 6th spot. So those are the gaps, and the most significant change I think we've seen in this competition has just happened. So we are getting ready now to swap disciplines. We've had women's bobsleigh and women's skeleton. We started off with men's skeleton. In this team's World Championship competition, the final runs will be deciding the medals, and it'll be down to the two-man bobsled to win, lose, or draw in this instance. Well, Helen Upperton, you know, going last is always a good thing because it means you're leading, but it's always a little bit of pressure because it means you're leading.
Definitely does. Our men's bobsleigh coming off of a long weekend. They've just completed 4 heats already.
This St. Moritz track, the only natural track still in World Cup and World Championship competition. They've seen us so many great races, and for the bobsledders, the start just as important.
It is, it's definitely important. It's a long, long straightaway. Kink 1, kink 2, very slight bends in the track heading left. You have to carry your push velocity through these straightaways into the big left-handed wall curve. There's not a lot of pressure there. The sled will oscillate a few times. Very light, delicate steering from the pilots. The unique thing, there's 14 corners on this track. Every one of them has a name and not a number. This is the Snake 1, Snake 2 combination heading into a big right-handed sunny corner. One of the few with a support structure behind it in this natural track. Nash Dixon, named after two very famous British bobsledders. Heading into the most famous corner on the track, Horseshoe Curve, lots of spectators there. Telephone Shamrock, a double right-hand combination, Devil's Dyke, a multiple pressure corner. Nice smooth track here in St. Moritz. It's a very unique venue. Nameless curve into 4 right-hand tree, bridge, leap, Gunther Sachs combination curves, and now hitting speeds of over 145 kilometers an hour in the men's field, actually topping Whistler as the fastest track on circuit this season. Martineau and Portago heading uphill and across the finish line.
And the thing that you notice most from the onboard is the silence of the track. No hollow rumble and echo of an artificial concrete channel. Here we're down, buried in Mother Nature, and the mountain absorbs all that vibration. And when you're watching or when you're sliding in the sleds, it's an eerie silence almost.
It is. It's one of the favorite venues of the sliders because it's so smooth and so beautiful.
And so historic and so exciting as well. There's nothing that doesn't get the nerves jangling. As Dr. Johnson might have said, when you're tired of St. Moritz, you are tired of life. Well, we go into our final run with 10 sleds competing for the medals, and we go in reverse order. So USA 1, who just vaulted ahead of the Germans, will be last to go, and the Romanian team will be first of our 12 on the ice. This is Dorin Grigore and Danut Stancu. Danut was the alternate brakeman, didn't drive in the two-man competition that just finished at lunchtime, so he gets his World Championship outing as the anchor leg for Romania. And their task, of course, will be to try and claw their way up the order.
Fastest push times in the men's competition that just finished earlier this afternoon were just below 5 seconds, carrying tons of velocity into this first kink and trying to maintain the sleds off those walls. You see it to be a lot more difficult in bobsleigh versus skeleton, where they have a much lower center of gravity and a little bit more control in the straightaways.
A little bump off one, but he kept the line from 2 straight down into the first big corner.
Bit of a slide from Snake 1 into Snake 2, trying to correct the steering as he comes through these transitions into Nash and Dixon. We want nice parallel lines. You lose so much speed as you slide sideways across the straightaways.
People often ask brakemen, where exactly do you brake? Before the corners, some of them, all of them? And the answer is no, none of them. This is all about accelerating all the way down the track. You're doing everything you can not to lose speed. The driver's just got to steel his nerve and get the steers right at 90 miles an hour. The brakeman's job finishes when he sits down and doesn't start again until right after the finish line. Watch for the brakes. Coming down into the ice, brakes, 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 shouts the driver, because they weren't there after the finish line.
A little bit of a late braking job from this crew here from Romania, but no big issues stopping the sled.
Yep, well, down at Stancu there, it's his first trip down, and just didn't quite realize they'd got to the line.
Good entry into Horseshoe. We're gonna see these bobsleighs very close to the roof. That is the fast line. That is the best way to come around this corner, accelerating the sled out of Horseshoe into Telephone and Shamrock, getting as much velocity as you can heading into the bottom.
11th place after 3 of the 4 legs of this team's World Championship are the Swiss team of Switzerland 2, Rico Peter, with his alternate brakeman, Patrick Blurschlinger, who'll be in the 4-man lineup of Swiss 2. He takes the start here in this team's competition. Well, the gaps are still relatively close. The Swiss could move up here. 11th in the men's skeleton, 10th in the women's bobsled, 12th in the women's skeleton. Let's see if they can pull themselves a little further up the order.
5:22, relatively good start time and keeping the sled off the walls compared to the Romanian team that had just gone down the track before.
Good momentum as well, 56 kilometers an hour in the first corner to the 54 of the Romanians.
The Swiss team getting as many runs as they can since the track has been built in December, knowing that they're hosting the most important race of the entire season with the World Championships being on a home venue. Such a huge advantage in the sliding sports.
Well, historically, of course, the World Championships is where everybody says goodbye for the end of the season. But in 2 weeks' time, the Olympic tryout event in Sochi, Russia will be undertaken. So there is one more major event to do after the World Championships. But that's not so much about winning and more about learning the intricacies of the Olympic track for next winter. Well, Romanians stay in the leaders' box until the Swiss cross the line, applaud their rivals, and why not? That's a good drive as well. 1:06.10 from Rico Pater.
A really nice, smooth run from this Swiss team, keeping their team well in the lead, giving the crews behind them a lot to work with. You get to see when you're waiting at the top, you see the times that have come down already, you know what you have to do to be able to move into the front. Nice high line coming out of Horseshoe, a lot of experience, a really parallel entry into Telephone, helps the pilot have to steer less as they go into the Telephone Shamrock combination.
Well, next up at the top of the track are the Austrians, Benny Meyer and Sebastian Höfler. Benny's brother Raphael, the 19-year-old, older of the two, was their skeleton driver. And now Benny, who has not yet started a World Cup race as a bobsledder, in his second World Championship competition of this season, of this weekend, rather.
5:38 is slower than the Swiss team, also tapping the walls, coming through the second kink, heading into wall curve. The gap between the Swiss and the Austrian sled should close a little bit because of the start deficit.
Well, John is with the Swiss team that lead. He's with Barbara Hosch. She speaks 6 languages. I wonder which she'll choose to answer in.
Barbara, how much fun is this team event compared to what you usually do in the World Cup circuit?
Well, it's a lot of fun, of course, and especially to do the discipline change and do it as a team. That's a lot of fun.
Keep it up, Switzerland.
Well, extending the advantage, or rather, not extending the advantage, seeing the advantage slip away from them from 1.1 seconds down to 0.3 of a second.
And a lot more mistakes in the track compared to the Swiss home team. It's going to be very close.
At the top, they're holding their breath. Are they going to be in front or behind of the line? There is Barbara, front and center. And the Swiss celebrate as they stay in the lead. Good drive from Rico Pater. That's exactly what you want to do, pick off people in front of you.
Yeah, the best feeling as a pilot is to put down a great run, a smoker of a run, and know that the guys at the top of the track have seen what you've done. They've heard the speed announcements, they've heard the split times, and they know they're going to have to be almost perfect to beat you. And this did not get the job done. Tapping around the kinks, he's already behind from the push. He's sliding off of Snake 1 into Snake 2. You want to see nice parallel transitions. It scrubs the speed off when you skid down these straightaways.
Well, there's Raphael Meyer with the helmet and his brother Benny, 2 brothers, 18 and 19 years old, sliding for Austria. Next up, Corey Butner and Dallas Robinson. These two competed in the 2-man competition for the USA. And they are back together again. Let's see, 5:17, not quite as quick as their best in the 2-man. Dallas running it right down into turn 1.
Really good push from these athletes. Dallas had a very tough start to the season with some injuries in his feet, Achilles tendon problems. He's such a fast athlete, one of the fastest on the American team, and very happy to be back in time for these World Championships.
Well, the 3 2-man brakeman were 10-3, 10-2, and 10-1 100-meter sprinters. And as you say, Dallas coming back after Christmas from that injury has just added another notch to the afterburners for Corey Butner.
And Corey having such a great 2-man season, getting on the podium quite a few times, I think even to his own surprise, and maybe not his best performance here in St. Moritz, but a wonderful World Championship event.
1:08.1, good speed.
Very good speed.
Pulling away from Switzerland from 1.8 to 1.9 seconds.
High line in Gunther Sachs, a tap on the wall and a tap on the wall through Portago.
Well, there's no question they're going to stay in front of the Swiss, the USA 2 team. And so they have the lead for the moment. Their targets will be to try and overhaul the Russians that were in front of them. Make sure they slap the Swiss back down into their place, and then try and lay down a marker that the Russians will struggle to meet. And that was another good trip for Corey Butner as USA 2 take the lead. Fourth and final runs of this Teams World Championship competition. For our Russian team now, Alexei Stulnev and Kirill Antuk, his alternate brakeman. We've had brothers sliding for Austria. We had a husband and wife combination in this team. Alexei Stulnev married to Olga Stulneva. She slid in the women's bobsleigh leg. So we've got all sorts of family combinations.
Russian men's bobsleigh, a powerhouse in the sport, and obviously in preparation of the 2014 Olympics being held in Sochi in just over 12 months, you can see the runners being bounced back and forth, trying to regain control in the straightaway.
It's a good, powerful start, but he's given all of that speed away. This is a horrible time. John Morgan down in the finish box with our leaders.
Hey, Asia, it's your first year in the sport, but this team competition is pretty different, huh?
Yes, it's very different. Kind of reminds me of a relay like in track and field, but it's just good energy, really fun. So it was a really pleasure to do it.
Well, spend some time in the leader's box and move up.
Hazel Evans posting the gold eyeliner as well. Just a little touch of track glitz brought to the nitty-gritty world of bobsleigh. But despite a big 5:14 start for Alexei Stulnev, it was those first flat straightaways that are the graveyard of so many hopes that have just buried the Russian team here.
Yeah, we've seen this happen so many times in the last few days in the bobsleigh, both men and women's discipline, and they've dropped behind significantly, losing 6/10 already.
Well, USA 1 vaulted up the order in the women's skeleton. USA 2 are doing the same here in the bobsled leg. So they stay in the leaders box. Russia slipped to second, Swiss 2 third, ahead of Austria and Romania.
The bobsleigh discipline in both men and women's is becoming more and more competitive at the start, and if you're an inexperienced pilot and you have a fast push, the more runs you take, the better results you're going to get as you build more experience in the sport. You get to develop your driving skills, and that's what's happening with this Russian team. Powerful start.
You just saw Olga there just giving him a grin and shaking her head. That was a classic wifely response. You were rubbish, and you know you were. Next up then, the man who took the silver medal in the two-man World Championship just 2 hours ago, Beat Hefty. Then with Thomas Lamparter, and now in the Swiss 1 lineup with Abe Morlu, one of his alternate brakemen who's hardly had a start all season, but look at the head-down power of Morlu. Look at the way it bounced them up at the start. 4.96 seconds, and that is better than any start in the two-man competition.
That is unbelievable to do after already completing 4 World Championship events over 2 days. They pushed their bodies to the limit for this event. Beat Hefty having the fastest start already today in the field, winning a silver medal. I'm actually blown away by that start.
Well, listen, for the alternate brakeman, Abe Morlu, he's not raced this season.
Yeah, talk about
Thomas
provable point.
Lamparter and Jörg Egger have, and he goes in and pushes a potentially slightly fatigued Beat Hefty to the fastest start of the week.
Well, if you're going to do it in front of a home crowd at the World Championships. I mean, you see a lot of these pilots and brakemen using their best athletes to compete in this event. A trophy and a medal at the World Championships, whether it's in the team event or not, is still a trophy and a medal.
You know you're absolutely right, and with the afterburners fully lit behind him, Beat Hefty rocking into the lead. Well, the gaps come down from 8/10 to 79 from its maximum. What a great drive. And Abe Morlu, you know, if you're going to have somebody on the bench, holy moly, what a guy to have on the bench.
Yeah, I can't believe the push. I mean, this brakeman's going to be so excited about that performance. You get one heat, one try. You can see him. They run it to the maximum depth. He's barely in the sled as they go into the first kink. Be it Hefty having the experience and control to maintain that sled down the straightaway. Unbelievable push time.
That is old school. And look, he's got his helmet signed by lots of other rival sliders as well. Wow, gauntlet thrown down now for Canada 2. And it is the chance of Justin Cripps and Luke Dimitri to respond. Cripps having a good run in the Canada 3 sled in the 2-man. Luke was an alternate, didn't get to race. Now is his world chance. And he is going to try and seize this with both hands. But that start record of the Swiss is really going to be hanging in front of them as the target.
Justin Cripps, the strongest pushing pilot in the Canadian program, 5:17, a very good push time, about a tenth slower than what Cripps was producing in the 2-man competition. He pushed Pierre Luders at the Olympics in 2010 to a 5th place finish. He's an experienced brakeman. This is his sophomore World Championship race. He competed for the first time in Lake Placid last winter.
Well, let's get down to the fastest man on ice today. I think John has caught up with Abe Morlou.
Abe, start record. Can you believe what you just did?
It's been the whole summer training for this. I thought I was going home. They gave me a call. We came here and did this. It's unbelievable right now. I'm at a loss of words. I'm loving it.
Enjoy the moment.
Thank you.
Loving it, he should be. And what about Cripps now? They were 400s back, but that electrifying drive from Ben Hefty, the silver medalist, has seen them drift to nearly 4 tenths behind. Switzerland moving up the order. Hefty on the right in the bottom box. Abe Morlou second right. Trained all season. His only race has been here.
They're drinking champagne and
drinking
celebrating.
your champagne. Yeah, that's Upperton's bottle that's open there.
Yeah, Justin Cripps having to follow Be It Hefty, you know, the home track hero, silver medal in the 2-man competition after a rocketing start.
Well, listen, 3800s back out of Nash and Dixon, did not lose 1/100th of a second in the rest of the track.
Yeah, great slide from Justin Cripps. He's going to be really happy with that. He gets a day off tomorrow and then gets ready to regroup for 4-man.
You know
really
what?
Nice slide.
When he got to Horseshoe, he had lost all the time that he was going to lose from that rocket start, and there he matched the silver medalist in driving. Well, next up, John Jackson and Craig Pickering, 34-year-old Royal Marine Commando and the 100-meter specialist in only his 3rd race weekend. John Morgan is with Paula Walker down at the bottom for Team Great Britain.
Okay, Paula, you and I are going to do a little commentary on this start, okay? So we want to be very critical of these guys, or positive. So you tell me what you think.
Oh, I think John looks fabulous on that handle. It's brilliant. It's early days for Craig, but, I mean, he's got the leg speed. He just needs that last bit of pushing.
You think you'll ever get him in the front seat driving?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe we need to teach him on the back first, and then his driving might come in years to come.
Okay, good luck here, Great Britain.
Thank you.
Well, Paula Walker driving in a women's bobsleigh leg, former brakewoman turned driver. That is very much the way that the sport progresses. You get speed on the back and hopefully then find some feel on the front. Well, 2600s up as they loaded already, a quarter second back for Team Great Britain behind the Swiss. And we've seen one standout leg in each of these heats start to really change this order around. Noelle Piker's paced last time for the women's skeleton for the USA, and now Ben Hefty and Abe Morlou. That unbelievable start and commensurate drive from Hefty has put the Swiss in the ascendancy.
Yeah, this team event is so exciting to watch. There's so much going on. It's actually really hard to keep track sometimes. There's bodies accumulating at the bottom as more and more athletes finish their heats.
And Great Britain come down into 3rd position. They slip behind Canada and Switzerland. Well, one of the teams had a mechanical problem, and the other one in 3rd place at the moment with 4 sleds to go. Might yet end up with a top 6 finish. Certainly not beyond the bounds of possibility. The Swiss could even climb to the medals.
Watching John Jackson here power the sled over 50 meters. These athletes have got to be tired after 2 days of competition already. They only finished their World Championship event a few hours ago. A little bit of time to eat, regroup, and then enter the team race.
Again, you see Craig Pickering struggling to load, get those feet in around the driver. You can see the holes in the driver's suit where it's been spiked before. Next up, Lyndon Rush with Cody Sorensen on the back of the sled. And freshly dried blood in the floor of the sled there from Jesse Lumsden, who had a nosebleed, not an impact in their final run. It's the altitude for you.
Good load from Lyndon, and a 5:12 push time is a great start time from Cody and Lyndon.
Yeah, that's the second quick start in this leg. That's a great effort. But the man who had the best drive so far, Bert Hefty, is with John Morgan.
We had team competition. Fun, huh?
Yeah, it's good. With the push time on the start with 8 was very good, and we are happy now we stay here, and we hope.
You spend a lot of time in the leader's box.
Yeah.
Well, he may well do. The lead from Canada over Swiss 1 was over a second at the line. It's down to 3/4. It's another good-looking drive from our two-man World Cup leader, Lyndon Rush.
Lyndon has great speed in the bottom. He stopped the bleeding in the track. He had a little bit of problem out of Snake 2 into Sunny. The bottom's been really nice and smooth. High line coming out of Sachs, keeps it off the wall. He's gaining some momentum.
Good speed, 1:44.7. He is going to be very good to the line, ducks his head away. And look, from the first corner, second split time, lost just 0.03 of a second for the rest of the track to Bert Hefty, the local hero. Well, again, top-class drive from Justin Cripps to rein in Hefty's advantage. The same here from Lyndon Rush. This time, they stay in front of the Swiss with 3 to go.
Yeah, Lyndon very disappointed with his result in the two-man competition. Struggled to be consistent over 4 heats, but put together a really nice run. You had a high line coming out of Sachs, but comes out parallel and straight, just missing that right wall by a few centimeters.
I tell you, 4 of those in the World Championships, he could have well have been in amongst the medals. Well, next up is our final pair of teams. Germany 2, followed by Germany 1. Max Arndt using an alternate brakeman. Fresh legs of Torsten Margis behind him, and look how fast they are moving to try and push Max into, well, you know, skids, power slides his way through the corner, and literally with that 5.16, that was a power slide.
Yeah, it's the best way to describe what just happened. They actually loaded simultaneously, but maybe a bit too aggressive as they came out of the groove, sending the sled sideways through the first kink. They're going to lose some of the velocity that they gained from such a nice push time.
200s up, but now look, they're in the red, a 10th back at Sunny.
Arndt is going to have a great run to try to stop the bleeding of this time. The exit of Horseshoe is going to be of vital importance.
Well, it was at Sunny that both Lyndon Rush and Justin Cripps undid all the damage at the start that the Swiss had inflicted on them, but Max Arndt is doing the same to them.
He's picked up 100th of a second from the time he had dropped in the top of the track. This is going to be very close in the bottom. He brushes the wall where Lyndon did not.
Oh, 800ths of a second. Is he going to take
I don't think he's going to do it.
The Canadians and the Germans hold their breath. And jubilation from the Canadians. Disappointment for Germany. Canada lead. Wow, with 1 team to go. 2 teams to go, I beg your pardon.
So that's good news for Canada, putting them into a podium position. Yes. And like we said, a medal is a medal, and this team event is a very exciting event. You see these athletes they jump into the sled just as the grooves end, sending the sled sideways, push bar is still up, manages to drop it and regain control of the sled, but you lose so much velocity by making a mistake like that.
Well, Canada took the bronze in 2011. John Montgomery, Melissa Hollingsworth, Lyndon Rush and Cody Sorensen, Kaylee Humphries and Heather Moyse, almost the same team. And the Canadians also took the silver medal in Altenburg in 2008. John, Kaylee, Lyndon were part of that team as well.
And this has got to be the most confident man on the track right now. It is a newly reigned world champion. Francisco Friedrich had an incredible 4 heats.
Unbelievable. First and second in all 4 slides. He rounded it out with a start record and a track record. If he beats that again now, oh my word.
He's the junior world champion, he's the senior world champion, and he had 4 incredible runs, and he's putting together a really, really nice top section of the track. Nice and parallel, half of a second advantage.
He won the 2-man gold with Yanis Becker. The man behind him now, Gino Gerhardi, was part of his 2-man junior world and 4-man junior world crew.
Huge speed out of Horseshoe,
Wow.
108.6.
Okay, Becker gave him enormous starts, but it's not all about the start, it's the driver as well.
Increasing his lead almost 0.2 of a second over a matter of a few corners.
Massive challenge for victory from Germany 1. They were pushed back into second place by the USA. They will take the lead over the Canadians. Wow, what a slide! 105.62. Close to his own track record for Francisco Frederick.
And
Wow.
5 amazing heats, a great week for him.
Well, now the disappointment for him is that he's not going to be in the 4-man.
That's okay, gives him a chance to celebrate tonight. You're gonna see a really nice high line in Horseshoe. I think he touches the roof actually, but he doesn't panic, he doesn't steer, he accelerates the sled out of the corner with a really good entry into telephone. Time to celebrate for this pilot.
22-year-old 2-man world champion might end up with a 2nd gold medal unless the USA can hold him off, and it's down to the reigning champion, Steve Holcomb. Well, let's get down to the leaders box with John Morgan.
Hey, another great run.
Was okay. Not so good like in the race, but was okay.
Not a bad day, though.
Yes.
Well, let's see if his day can become double gold. Stephen Holcomb, the first man in history to win all 3 possible medals in a men's bobsled competition. Last year in Lake Placid, 2-man, 4-man and team competition. And a 5:13 start. These guys mean to win this.
If Francisco Friedrich was the most confident guy on the track, Steve Holcomb is the most motivated, just missing the podium with a 4th place finish in the 2-man competition. And like you said, 3 medals at the World Championships last year in Lake Placid. He wants to be on top of that podium right now.
2 hours ago, such frustration for his brakeman, Kurt Tomasevich, watching Holke slide out from 3rd to yet another 4th place finish here in St. Moritz. That is not going to happen this time. The gap's down from half a second to a near quarter second, halfway down the track. This new BMW sled in only its 2nd race weekend. Holcomb only in the infancy of getting to grips with it. The gap will come down again, 0.2 of a second, but the USA are going to win this. Holcomb is going to take gold in the team competition with the rest of his teammates, and there is the gold medal. There is the better than 4th place result in St. Moritz for the first time in his life for Stephen Holcomb, and Kurt Tomasevich was aching for him in the commentary booth, now helps to celebrate with him in the leaders box.
And I'm sure that sweetens a little bit of the disappointment from earlier today. Noel Pickett's pace, probably the strongest part of that team, with a crazy fast skeleton run and a beautiful final heat from Steve Holcomb as the anchor leg. Lolo Jones celebrating after having to watch her teammates compete in the women's event.
Winter gold medal in the World Championships in her first year in the sport. Absolutely. Well, the USA, their open leg John Daly, who was 3rd fastest in his group. Alana Myers and Lolo Jones 3rd quickest in the women's bob. Noel Piker's pace blitzed the field in women's skeleton with a track record to lead into the final run, and Steve Holcomb 3rd fastest run, but he did enough to take the gold medal, Team USA, and this is the way it was laid down. John Daly, great start, and he has a gold medal before his main competition even gets underway. That's the way to welcome yourself to St. Moritz. Well, that put them in 7th place. He was a little disappointed at the end of his run. Frank Rommel, the fastest individual slider. But then Alana Myers, silver medal in the women's competition. Change of break woman to Lolo Jones. Didn't stint her at all. Great competition from them. And that brought the USA back into the fray. And perhaps the pivotal point came in the 3rd leg, women's skeleton. Like a major league slider in the junior little leagues, Noelle Piker's pace wiped the floor with the opposition. A brand new track record, unbelievable pace from the woman who was the 2007 individual world champion on this track. And then it was down to Holcomb to defend the lead, to finish better than fourth. And with Kurt Tomasevich behind him, the BMW sled beneath them, that is what they did. Even the world champion, Francesco Friedrich, could not hold them back. And the USA claimed the team's gold medal for the second consecutive year. Well, it is a mixture of everything that we do in this sport, Helen Upperton, and the right mixture came out with the best cake.
It's a great opportunity. Bobsleigh and skeleton travel together all winter on the same circuit, and these team events give them a chance to rally, compete together, and it's such a phenomenal event to watch.
And how much fun are they having? Win, lose or draw, the athletes all say they love this because it is so much fun. USA win, Germany second, Canada third. Great final, couple of slides from them to oust Germany 2. The Swiss in fifth and Canada 2 in sixth position ahead of the remaining GB team. USA 2 in eighth, and 12 teams finished with GB2 suffering a mechanical problem on the women's bobsled, a broken axle bolt, eliminating them from the competition. Well, a fun way to round out our first weekend of competition here in St. Moritz. And of course, we've got lots more sliding, got men and women's skeleton, and the four-man bobsleigh still to be decided in week 2 of these Bauhaus FIBT World Championships. Well, now the process of nailing Jello to the ceiling continues as we try and arrange 3 jubilant teams into some semblance of order to give them their flowers and their trophies and to get a word with them. There under the Dracula Club logo, the start house named after the president of the bobsleigh club who built it, Gunter Sachs. His son Walter now is the proud president of the St. Moritz Bobsleigh Club, a club that traces its history back to 1897 at this historic venue. And there you go. It's like herding fish, it really is. And that is one of the delights of this. Team USA on the podium. Let's get down to our man, John Morgan, for the presentations.
So we're down here for the flower ceremony, but in St. Moritz, they don't give away flowers, they give away champagne.
Andrea Bianco from Champagne Mumma.
So from Andrea Bianco, please give your team, give the champagne away, go. Again, they give away champagne here to the American team. So everybody frame up for Okay, now we'll go for our interviews, and we'll come over here to Canada 3, Kaylee, bronze medal. Pretty good weekend for you.
Yeah, overall it's been a great weekend. Got a great team, and yeah, everybody worked really hard, and I'm really proud of all my teammates.
Congratulations, Canada. Now we're going to come over here to the silver medal team. Germany had quite a strong team here, Frank, silver medal.
Yeah, it was good performance of our team, and we're happy with silver medal today.
Congratulations, Germany. Gino. Now the American team, a lot of nice medals here. Noelle, we got to go to you. Do you realize the time that you put down in that your skeleton run?
I knew my head went down in Martineau, and so I knew it was going to be fast, but I didn't know it was going to be that fast. So I was just really happy with my run, and our team, USA, did an awesome job coming together to win this gold medal. It was a team effort here.
We got to ask the whole team Holkey here. Steve, a lot of fourth places. Nice to get a first place here, huh?
Yeah, you know, after the two-man event today, that was my fourth place in a row at a World Championships in St. Moritz, so it's nice to break that curse finally, but I had a great team help me do that.
Congratulations, America.
Congratulations indeed, Team USA won. They are our Team World Championships for 2013. Kurt Tomasevich, after a stint in the booth over 2 days, fretting as teammate Stephen Holcomb couldn't get onto the podium, is part of that winning celebration. And once more, the team competition produces fun, entertainment and excitement in equal measure. My thanks to Helen Upperton for words of wisdom. Thanks as well to our astonishing TV crew out here in sub-zero temperatures since the crack of dawn to bring you these pictures. On behalf of everybody here, I'm Martin Haven. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you for week 2 of the Bauhaus FIBT Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Championships.